So it's that time of year again, 30% off over at So Avant-Garde. I've got a link in the info box. Use the code Sebastian30, save 30% off of the fragrances I'm going to recommend to you here or any other fragrance on their website minus the mind games. Find out about these amazing fragrances coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's Sebastian. We're talking about a 30% off promotion over at So Avant-Garde. Are you familiar with this website? Once a quarter, I recommend some fragrances as they do a promotion for my followers here. So the code is Sebastian30. It's happening now, the 15th through the 18th. You can take 30% off of the fragrances I'm going to recommend or other fragrances on the website. All 30% off except for the Mind Games fragrances. So let's go ahead and get started. I recommended this fragrance recently, and I'm recommending it again here. It's a fragrance created by Dominic Ropian from a house called CARINE ROITFELD. This is CARINE. So this is a patchouli jasmine bomb, and it smells fantastic. And you know, patchouli and me are very best friends. I love this note. I really enjoy it. And here, I didn't realize jasmine and gardenia would blend so beautifully with the note of patchouli, that earthy note of patchouli. In addition to the gardenia and patchouli, we have spicy notes of pink pepper, vetiver, cashmeran, white amber, and a lot of other things happening here. But for me, it's mostly a really great, long-lasting fragrance with the patchouli and the white flowers. But this is not like an overwhelming intensity that's going to turn you off. Just the right amount. And it has a great, very sexy trail. So if you like the idea of white flowers and patchouli, that earthy, sexy patchouli, definitely check out CARINE. It's a house that founded by CARINE ROITFELD. It's her own name, obviously. She was a former Vogue beauty editor, I believe. Moving on to a house called MIZENSIR. This is MYTHIQUE Vetiver, this one right here. So MYTHIQUE Vetiver is a pretty solid vetiver fragrance, and I'm recommending it here for you because I feel like vetiver can be perfect in those damp spring days when it's raining outside. I've been kind of bored of vetiver lately, but I'm kind of circling back and starting to enjoy some vetiver fragrances because vetiver tends to go a bit one-dimensional, not much excitement happening. Here, it goes into more of an aromatic, spicy direction, and it eventually settles down to more of an amber, smoky kind of a direction. But it features vetiver. There's geranium here with that herbal, floral touch of the geranium. There's papyrus, labdanum, lemons, and bergamot. So yeah, you have a nice citrusy start with the lemons and bergamot, but it's all about the vetiver. And then, you know, I should mention, which I do mention quite often, papyrus does act a bit like vetiver to me. It's almost kind of like a vetiver, patchouli, and other woods mixed together, but I feel like it accentuates the earthiness of the vetiver that's in here to give it more of an earthy, woody boost. So check this one out. It's a nice aromatic, citrusy vetiver fragrance from the house of MIZENSIR, created by Alberto Morias. This next fragrance is from a house called Eternal Journey. This is Sunset to Midnight, this one right here. So Sunset to Midnight is a fragrance that I fell in love from this house. They have 3 fragrances launched, and now they're selling over at So Avant-Garde. And it's Labdanum, Myrrh, Woods, Incense, Ambroxan, Nagarmotha, Musk, Candy, Apples, Rum, and Iris. It's a really great smelling, warm, spicy, and fruity take on incense, but not the kind of incense that's heavy, weighty, and dense, and really intense. It's just the right kind of wear to put on and wear, and with decent longevity, just like the CARINE, but not an overwhelming intensity, just the right amount. But I like this kind of ambery, airy dry down with this one, and that fruitiness really cuts through the smokiness of the resinous incense notes that's in here. This happens to be my favorite from this house, the Sunset to Midnight from the house of Eternal Journey, so hopefully you guys get to try it. It's a brand founded by a DJ. So I've been wanting to talk about this house, and I finally get to do, and it's a great time for you to check out this house called New Notes. And I'm actually going to recommend 2 fragrances. They might be a bit more complex or intense for spring wear, but I'm sure in the springtime there are some cold days that you can pull this out. So we're going to talk about Caramelo Vanilla and Musk Complexity, and I'm going to talk to you about a layering combo as well. Musk Complexity is such a beautiful musk. I really like it, but bordering gourmand and citrusy. Has cinnamon peel, lemons, spicy ginger, sugar, rum, bergamot, petitgrain, red fruits, guaiac wood, musk, and all kinds of other musky notes. There's synthetic notes in here and things like that. But the fragrance really does smell really great. It has a great longevity as well because it's an extrait de parfum. It wears very complex, and there's some hints of reminders of other fragrances in here. And then finally, when you combine it or layer it with vanilla caramello, which is a super delicious gourmand with dulce de leche, caramel, vanilla, vanilla flower, musk, tonka beans, white flowers, cotton candy, frangipani. Wow. They're both separately really delicious on their own. The vanilla caramello is a super amazing vanillic caramel fragrance. When you combine these two, when you layer these two together, musk complexity and vanilla caramello, you're going to smell like musk ravageur from the house of Frederic Malle, but a much more intense version of it. So definitely great fragrances from New Notes Fragrances. Hopefully you guys get to try these. Musk Complexity and Vanilla Caramello. Let me know if you're a fan of those. Next, we're going to go into some more familiar territory with some houses that you might be familiar with. First of which is Nichane. I've got 3 fragrances I'm going to recommend to you from Nichane. It's Taro for the first one. So this is a very interesting combination of woods and spices with caramel. So in the end, you've got this kind of a gourmand woody thing happening with some spices that's really a pleasure to wear. It's also salty because it's got a salted caramel note along with black pepper, Sichuan pepper, that's that earthy patchouli in here, cinnamon bark, vetiver, amber, and oak wood. Eventually the fragrance settles to an ambery woody base, but that sticky, salty caramel up top mixed with the patchouli, not the patchouli, but the spices of the Sichuan pepper and black pepper creates a very interesting accord to eventually, you know, segue and marry into the dry down of the patchouli, the cinnamon bark, and also the amber and oak wood. Really, really great offering. I think this is created by Carlos Banayam, but I think it's one of my favorites from the house, Taro. And then my usual combo of the 2 fragrances from this house that I like to layer, once again, another layering duo. We've got Hachivat, which you guys know about, and we've got 100 Silent Ways. Hachivat is that kind of really screechy, metallic, woody take on something like Aventus, with features pineapple, oak moss, grapefruit, woody notes, bergamot, and patchouli. So it definitely has a metallic screechiness, but very fruity and also earthy and juicy, bitter, citrusy as well. Really great offering on its own. And then 100 Silent Ways on the other side is a softer, more floral take on like an amber floral fragrance with vanilla, gardenia, sandalwood, peach, jasmine. So it has some fruitiness, it's very creamy, and just gorgeous, warm amber floral fragrance. Layer the 2 together and you have an intoxicating blend of a super long-lasting fragrance with, you know, the fruitiness, because the fruitiness from the Hachivat marries into the fruitiness of the 100 Silent Ways, and then vice versa, things happening together. It creates a unique and nuclear combo of notes that people are going to stop you and ask you what you're wearing. So Hachivat and 100 Silent Ways, again, great fragrances from Nichane. I've got 3 of them for you, as I said. All right, next we're going to another familiar territory with a house called Tiziana Terenzi, and one of my favorite offerings from this house, called Ursa. And what I like about this one is that reminder of By Kilian Straight to Heaven, but in a much more intense and what do you call it, also kind of animalic direction. You've got everything from Straight to Heaven with dried fruits, patchouli, vanilla, and oud and rum and things like that. But then with this one, you also have leather thrown in and some other notes to create a more complex and intense concoction. For me, I really, even though this version is very intense compared to By Kilian's, I still like to wear it in the heat because I think in the heat, the fruitiness, the dried fruits fruitiness with the vanilla and the booziness of the rum really does create a very intoxicating trail that I really, really love. The only thing I've heard people complain about is the leather. The leather might be a bit too animalic in here. So be warned, maybe sample it with a sample first, but I absolutely love this one. It's my favorite. Tiziana Terenzi, it's Ursa from this house. Are you familiar with this one? The only other thing I should also mention, some people are saying new formulations are perhaps bad. I don't know. I haven't tested the new formulations, but maybe the fragrance needs to mature and macerate. I'm not 100% sure. As soon as I can get my nose on a current formulation, I will have to report back. But for now, I'm recommending it because I really love the one I have. So it's Ursa from the house of Tiziana Terenzi. And then moving on to the house, a sister house of Tiziana Terenzi, it's Quinto Canto, it's Strychnina. It's V. Cantos Quinto Canto. And Strychnina is a really great intense take on a fruity fragrance. It's got loads of fruits, and I feel like fruits are perfect for spring wear. It's raspberry, passion fruit, peach, cassis, brown sugar, vanilla pod, magnolia, ylang ylang, musk, lemons, and bergamot. So it's basically a fruity floral with some warm notes, which is perfect. I think you can wear this one pretty liberally with the sprays, except for when it's really, really hot. It might get a bit cloying, but I like the combination of the fruits and the flowers together with some warm notes and woods together, creating a bit of an amber effect when it's drying down. Tiziana Terenzi and this particular house, which is a sister house of Terenzi, they do know how to make some great fruity fragrances, and in this case we've got a fruity floral fragrance. So it's Strychnina from the house of Quinto Canto. A few more fragrances left. We've got a few designers that are on the website, So Avant-Garde, and you can take 30% off on it. This first one is Brioni EDP Essential. You know, this one has grown on me even though I wanted more tomato leaves. The tomato leaves upon first spray or initial spray you'll experience, but it does disappear, and you are kind of left with something that does hint at Aventus and things like that. So maybe it's not very original, but it does smell really, really great, especially when you first spray it. That tomato leaves herbal greenness, bitterness against the freshness and the citrusy touches is really, really great. So it's bergamot, tomato leaves, cardamom, patchouli, tonka, sandalwood, amber, and frankincense. So this particular fragrance, I think it's better suited for warmer spring days, and you can also carry it over to the summertime, but it does have a bit of a deep dense and intense kind of a dry down with kind of earthy woods and also ambery touches as well. There's a little bit of smokiness coming in from the frankincense, but I think when you control your sprays and figure out what's best for the warmer days, you can totally do it. I think it's a great scent, even though I think we're basically inspired by something in that Aventus-like DNA. So it's Brioni Eau de Parfum Essential. Check that out. And the whole Brioni collection of fragrances I really recommend as a great collection of men's designer fragrances. And then moving on to the house of Tumi, Continuum. So with Continuum being my favorite from this house, designer house, I think it's also a kind of a warm and intense fragrance. I would leave this for the cooler spring days to wear. But again, it smells really great. It's smoky, tobacco-ish, and also kind of boozy for me. There's booziness in here and also fizziness too. Like there's a bit of a Coca-Cola fizziness coming in. It's orris, amber, oud, tobacco, musk, olibanum, suede, cistus incanus, and mandarin. Everything smells really, really great. Again, it's supposed to be tobacco, but I get booziness from this one. I get fizziness. There's like a Coca-Cola fizzy vibe in here. Just smell it. It smells really great. I really love that about it, which is kind of cool. But then, of course, it's powdery with iris. There's ambery touches for sure here. A bit of leather, suede leather. But the creation is really, really great. I think they did a great job. It's one of my favorite men's designer fragrances out there. I hope you have gotten your nose on it. It's Tumi's Continuum, and that's the last fragrance I'm going to talk to you about today on this promotion over at So Avant-Garde. Again, it's most everything in the store except for the Mind Games fragrances. I have a separate Mind Games discount code in the info box that'll save you 10% off, but Sebastian 30 saves you 30% off of everything minus the Mind Games from March 15 to March 18. Otherwise, any other time of the year, it's Sebastian 20, which will give you 20% off. Do let me know what your thoughts are on these fragrances, especially the ones at the beginning, which I haven't spoken too much about. Have you gotten your nose on those fragrances? Put a comment down below so I can find out. But other than that, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.